But let's move on now. We're going to 20 through 11, and this is the part where we wanted to kill Ricky. So you guys are probably...
We're going to talk about my boy.
We're going to talk about...
My boy.
We're going to talk about a lot of people's boys. So let's jump into it. 20 through 11, starting off this list, 20, Jeremy Lin of the Brooklyn Nets. Then Markelle Fultz of the Philadelphia 76ers coming in at 19. At 17, Dennis Smith Jr. of the Dallas Mavericks. At 16, Ricky's boy, Lonzo Ball. At 15, we have Drew Holiday of the New Orleans Pelicans. Of 14, we got Dennis Schroeder of the Atlanta Hawks. We got Jeff Teague, now of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Probably not of the Minnesota Timberwolves if this Kyrie talk keeps going through. Then we got George Hill as well of the Sacramento Kings. We got Eric Bledsoe of the Phoenix Suns. And rounding out this group, we got Goran Dragic of the Miami Heat. And boys, let's jump in to the men in the lower half, the rookies, Markelle Fultz, Dennis Smith Jr., and Lonzo Ball. I want to put this out there before everything. I had Markelle Fultz at 17, Dennis Smith Jr. at 20, and Lonzo Ball at 25. Ricky, where'd you have Lonzo Ball?
I had Lonzo Ball in the top 10. Had him at 10.
Woo! Who'd you have him above?
Rookie of the year.
Who'd you have?
Had him above Kemba.
And Goran Dragic, Jeff Teague.
Well, here's the thing.
Eric
it was
Bledsoe,
either going to be
George Hill.
If there was anyone that Lonzo was going to knock out in my top 10, it was going to be Kemba Walker, because I look at it and Lonzo Ball, to me, is he going to average a triple-double like he did in Summer League?
No.
However,
Look at Chris Dunn last year.
He is going to be a player that I have already said when Dave and I did the podcast when you were at Pitchfork.
Yep.
I'm calling it. He's Rookie of the Year this year. He's going to be phenomenal for the Lakers. I just got all the hype in the world for this guy, and I put him in my top 10.
Yeah, there's
Put him in the
hype
top
in being.
10.
You don't think you're being you don't think you're being ridiculous here?
No,
you don't.
not at all.
You think at the end of the season, Lonzo Ball is going to be the 10th best point guard in the NBA?
I think there's a possibility of that happening.
Do you think it's going to happen?
Yes. If he wins Rookie of the Year, then he could be top 10.
And that's his floor. That's his. I'm sorry. That's his ceiling, right?
The ceiling is the roof in this case.
The ceiling is top 10 point guard by the end of the year.
For this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, where's the floor?
The floor.
What's a bad season for Lonzo Ball? 20?
A bad season
I thought
is
you said 8.
Where he is now. No, where he is now, about 18 to 20 is a terrible season. I don't see Lonzo Ball being I don't see any of these rookies falling out of this tier. They can only, this is where they are, right back to back to back with each other. And basically, it's this season, how well are you going to do and how high are you going to go up? These are all guys that can kind of climb when we get to next year.
But you know what's interesting about that
What's
is
that?
the order that they ended up in here.
Backwards ass order. Lonzo Ball, who went 2, is higher than Markelle Fultz, who went 1, and Dennis Smith is above Markelle Fultz, and
It's
Smith
about what
went,
team they're
9th?
on, though. It's about what team they're on,
Yeah,
too.
and I would say the team that has the best chance out of all of these teams are the Philadelphia 76ers, yet Markelle Fultz is ranked
Best
lower.
chance to win more games, yes.
I know, but I'm just saying. I just find it peculiar.
Yep.
So why did you, because you also had Markelle Fultz lower than both Dennis Smith and Lonzo Ball. Why was that your thought process as well? To take some heat off Ricky.
Yeah, sure. Throw it at me.
Top 10, baby.
For me, Markelle Fultz, well, he was the #1 pick overall. He's going to a team where he will have a smaller role than both of these other guys who got drafted.
He'll be the third option instead of Lonzo, who I mean will be the third.
I think Lonzo is pretty much the #2 and bordering on.
So you have him above Brandon Ingram.
Look, when it comes,
Brook Lopez.
It's pretty much Brook Lopez and Lonzo will be playing pick and roll, pick and pop.
But the ball
that's their entire gameplay.
But the ball runs through Lonzo,
But
too.
the ball runs through Lonzo. Lonzo's the sole man for that offense. And when we look at the 76ers, we've got Ben Simmons, who is point forward / point guard / point whatever we want.
And when he's on the bench, Markelle Fultz will probably
You have Markelle
win every
Fultz,
game.
you have Dario, who will also take off for him. And you have Joel Embiid, who's just going to get the most amount of focus while on the court.
But would you agree that saying that Markelle Fultz would probably be the third option on that team? And actually, scoring-wise, I'd probably say
No,
he's
because
second.
JJ.
Would you? So when you're talking scoring options,
When I'm talking
where are you
scoring,
ranking
it's
those
Joel
guys?
Embiid, it's JJ Redick.
So you're putting
Then
putting
it's Ben
JJ above
Simmons.
Markelle Fultz?
For scoring?
Scoring-wise?
Yeah.
You don't think Markelle Fultz, with his ability to score inside and outside,
I think-
and his ability with his speed to drive to the lane, isn't going to get
He'll
overlooked by
probably
JJ
have
Redick?
more points per game. I just think that JJ will do it better because he's more efficient with
So you think
three-point shooter.
so JJ will be more efficient?
Yeah, I think JJ's
think-
probably got finished with 16 points. Markelle might have 17 or 18.
Okay.
That's probably my realistic expectations. But
When
the
I'm
problem
saying
is,
scoring option,
Yeah.
who are they going to go to?
it's Joel Embiid.
Okay, Joel Embiid,
that's
and then
number
who's
one.
behind him? Are they going to go to
Ja.
JJ?
No.
Who are they going to?
I just had to throw that in there. It's Fultz is probably 3 in my mind. Like, I still think Ben Simmons is going to soak up the majority of ball handling time. And the thing with Fultz is, like, we've only seen him play in a system where he is the only viable option. So now going to a team where he is surrounded by number 1, number 2, number 3 overall picks, like, that's a pretty big change. So his ego is going to have to take a step, and then he has to figure out where he fits into the system, because this isn't his system. This is Ben Simmons' system. This is for Joel Embiid. This is not for Markelle Fultz to be the guy in. So that's my biggest thing, is like him going in there. I don't know how big of a role offensively he'll have compared to Alonzo Ball, where it is purely on him, because he is, per Magic Johnson, the future of this franchise.
So the thought process is that the fact that Lonzo Ball and Dennis Smith Jr. are at least going to be the ball handlers. Their expectations are higher, so that's
their
why
usage will be much higher than Markelle Fultz.
So that's so the usage plays into a factor, and that's why they'll be ranked higher.
Well,
Absolutely.
And, I mean, how you look at where they are just in overall. Lonzo, Dennis Smith, Fultz. It kind of goes into the 2 tiers that we've kind of mentioned, where the first tier is what you just said. Because Ball and because Smith will have the ball in their hands more times than Markelle Fultz will, that's where more of the, and I'm using air quotes here for a point guard,
but
hype.
The thing is yes, the assist numbers might not be there for Markelle Fultz, because he will not be controlling the offense.
I'm not talking assist numbers. I'm just saying, like, when the ball is in your hands, you can dictate whether it's you who scores, whether it's this guy who scores. You're the one that everything's running through. When Markelle Fultz doesn't have the ball, it's going to be a lot of, he's going to have the ball when Ben Simmons isn't on the floor, but if they're on the floor at the same time, it's going to be a lot of, well, I don't have control over this. You have control, and I have to wait for you to pass me the ball.
But Ben Simmons is still a fantastic passer. He's a fantastic playmaker. That's why he went number 1 overall. That's why he is the primary ball handler, at least we're thought process. We're thinking that he's going to be the primary ball handler heading into the season, because he can get it to the other players.
When you're the 3rd scoring option, then on top of it, what Dave said,
I don't think he's the 3rd scoring option. I think he's the 2nd scoring option, and if Embiid goes down, then he's the number 1 scoring option.
Let's not say things we can't take back.
If Embiid goes down, everything changes.
Dude has played 33 games in 3 years.
But I know.
The other layer I was going to go with, out of the 2 that are going to be the main ball handlers, who's got the more hype right now? And it's Lonzo
I think
Ball.
Summer League definitely contributed to these rankings, because we only got to watch a little bit of Markelle Fultz, and we got to watch Dennis Smith Jr. ball out. We got to watch Lonzo.
Well, Markelle
eventually.
Markelle Fultz fit in perfectly.
You're saying the
there's
fact
some
that
recency.
Lonzo Ball is 10 is because of Summer
that's
League?
Ricky being Ricky, man. That's
I like
his
Lonzo
own case.
Ball, Rookie of the Year.
I think the point
I'm
is
gonna start making shirts.
usage factors in heavily.
LeVar's already got that.
Yeah, he's already got that copyrighted.
Anyways, I disagree with you guys here. I just think that Markelle Fultz, he's going to be, second scoring option behind Joel Embiid. And even Joel Embiid's going to be able to, he's not going to have the ball every single time going up and down the court. I mean, Ben Simmons is still going to take shots, but these guys are still fantastic scorers in their own right. Markelle Fultz is a great scorer. He can create on his own, and he can work off ball. I mean, this kid is fantastic, and that's why he went number 1 overall.
I'm not saying he's not.
He might not be bringing the ball up every single time, but I don't think that's going to affect him. Look at Malcolm Brogdon. We saw his efficiency in that role. Markelle Fultz is a better scorer than Malcolm Brogdon. Brogdon's ranked 23 on this list,
and why
Brogdon's the 4th option when Jabari comes back. And I even think with Markelle Fultz, being probably the 2nd option in my mind, I think that you look at this, Chris Middleton, I think is going to be, if we're comparing the Bucks here, Chris Middleton is going to be like the Markelle Fultz, where J.J. Redick's going to be the Malcolm Brogdon, where they're going to go to J.J. for the open shots. I mean, you look at that team when the Clippers, J.J. was the 4th option, because Chris Paul was still above him, Blake was still above him, DeAndre was still above him. I think J.J.'s still going to be the guy that's going to be a spot-up shooter. He's going to be really efficient at that, but I still think Markelle, with his natural scoring ability, he's still going to get his usage, and he's still going to be efficient, because those shots are going to be open because he's playing with Joel Embiid, because he's playing with J.J. Redick, because he's playing with Ben Simmons.
And here's the thing I like, though, about our top 3 before you kind of go in. Well, these 3 guys, is I love that they're back-to-back-to-back.
Well,
because
that was because we got lucky and I put Lonzo at 25.
The thing I love about that, though, is that it kind of shows hey, this is right now based on us 3, this is where we rank these rookies. But yeah, they're in this middle tier. After the season, Let's see where they go, where they spread out with each other.
We're saying 3 guys who haven't played a single minute of NBA time are better than 10 players.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Well, I mean, come on. Any of the guys we talked about in segment 1, would you say that these 3 aren't better than?
And real quick,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think potential.
I'm not comparing these two, but you guys know who's number 1.
Yep.
Look at what that guy's role became and how he is still number 1.
Right.
I just think that Markelle Fultz, with his potential, with his scoring ability, it will still overcome Lonzo and Dennis Smith. But
honestly, one last thing I want to make is you were trying to compare him to like the Bucks system, but honestly, it's he and Ben Simmons are Kyrie and LeBron James, lesser versions of. Like, to be completely honest, I can see them running similar offensive schemes. They won't be because, of course, that's not Brent Brown's style, but like that's exactly how I envision that relationship will work out. Yeah. The big difference being that they have, a 7-footer who's the most dominant player.
And
also,
on the court. Ben Simmons isn't the scorer like LeBron James is.
Right.
So that's completely different as well, too. Anyways, let's get away from the rookies here. One guy that I think is very interesting, and I don't think gets enough credit, to be honest with you, is Dennis Schroeder. Coming in at 15 here. I had Schroeder at 12. I just look at Schroeder. Again, expectations plays into this. With Paul Millsap leaving, I think that a lot of the scoring front is going to fall on Schroeder, and I think he's going to rise to the occasion. You look at his splits last year, he's a phenomenal shooter, getting up closer to 40% from 3. I just think that his ability to create is also just not really focused on enough. I think Atlanta's going to take a little bit of a dip with Dwight and Paul Millsap
and
leaving.
Hardaway.
And Hardaway.
They lost all of...
They did, and I think it's going to fall a lot on Schroeder, and I think it's going to either be a sink or swim season for him. But I think that Schroeder's ability, at least, I don't know if the Hawks are going to be a playoff team, but I think that Schroeder's going to be the best player on that team, just because you look at what's around him.
I say
there's not much around him.
It's either him or Kent Bazemore, and I'm hoping it's Schroeder because, Bazemore's okay. He's okay.
He can develop.
But this is clearly a team rebuilding, so it's Schroeder's team to lead, and I agree with you. I think his usage goes up, but my question is, has he made it out of the shadow of his predecessor? Is Jeff Teague still a better point guard than him?
Well,
in my mind, I still think so, but like you said, the usage and him going to a Timberwolves team where he'll have a much smaller role kind of leads into that discussion, I think.
Well, tell me if I'm wrong, but does Jeff Teague resemble like mayonnaise to you? Like, he's just kind of there. Like, Jeff Teague doesn't excite me. You know what I'm saying?
I thought you were saying like he looked like a jar of mayonnaise.
No. Jeff Teague just kind of, he's just like, all right, that's Jeff Teague. Like, Jeff Teague doesn't do anything like spectacular to me. Like, you look at him, he's like, oh yeah, he put up 15 points per game, 7.8 assists, 4 rebounds a game too. But then again, he's playing with Paul George, he's playing with Miles Turner.
I think that's because he played for the ultimate. I'm gonna say mayonnaise state in Indiana. I mean, Indiana last year was like, oh, Indiana did that. All right, like whatever. Like that's I think why
straight up disrespect for
that. Yeah, I mean I'm a Bulls fan. What do you expect? But
next week we're ranking all 50 states.
The thing where it came
coming
in
for you,
with
Maryland.
Hawaii, #1 best vacation state. However,
You've never been.
No, I've never been. However, the big state stat that pushed out to me with Schroeder, and this is when it came in compared to Bledsoe, Teague, and Goran Dragic, was the value added. I looked at the per and then I looked at the value added. And when you look at Schroeder, I know you can say, well, Ricky, this could also be what team he's on. 192 compared to Bledsoe that's at 310, Goran who's at 324, and then you had Jeff Teague who's at 326. So those 3 players adding almost 1/3 more value.
And just so people at home know, what's this value-added stat?
The value-added stat is basically their estimated number of points a player adds to the team's total season above a replacement player. So that's, for instance, the 12th man on the roster. They are adding 1/3 more points than Dennis Schroeder is adding.
And again, I think it comes into expectations because now Schroeder, Jeff Teague was 3rd option on the Pacers last year. Was 3rd option probably, in Atlanta too. I mean, even then that's kind of iffy. He might have been 4th. Yep. But looking at this, I think that Dennis Schroeder might going to be able. He's again, like I said, sink or swim season. This is a guy who's 23 years old, still developing. I like the flashes that I saw.
Yeah.
He might jump up to a 20-point per game guy and maybe sit around six assists per game, but I think he might be able to be more efficient, jump up to like maybe 47% from the field. And sorry, I misspoke. He wasn't shooting around 39% from 3. He was shooting around 34%.
Right.
That might take an uptick to like 36% because he's been always really, increasing his shot and not only the amount of threes he takes, but also the percentage he's been hitting. So I think that Dennis Schroeder is a guy that we really got to look out for. I think that he's a guy that's super underrated on our list, and that's why I had him at 12. ends up at 15. Not too far of a drop, but ultimately moved up 4 points from last year.
Also, another stat that kind of played in why I had him a little lower than everyone was the true shooting percentage of 53%. It's just a little lower than the Bledsoes, the Dragic, even Drew Holiday, who I didn't mention.
I'm just curious to see, shooting. Like you said, with his gutted, rebuilding Hawks team, like his usage is going to go through the roof. So I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, if he puts up like 27 and 6. I really do think he's going to be stat stuffing a little bit, not a bad way, but like he's going to have to compete in this league. Meanwhile, I'd Teague above him still. But I think Teague is going to have a much lesser role on that team now with Jimmy Butler, Cat, Wiggins, and Taj. Like, that's a team that he just needs to go in and, like you said, be the mayonnaise.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of bring the sandwich together. You got the meat, the meats in Karl Anthony Towns, the cheese of Jimmy Butler. I don't know, maybe the mustard of Andrew Wiggins. I don't know.
Tomato?
I kind of wish
the cat's the bread, the meat's Jimmy, the cheese is Wiggins, the mustard, adding a little spice to it, is Taj Gibson. You got to put the mayonnaise and Jeff Teague in there.
I kind of wish his name was Patty, like Patty Mills. So we could just say, be the Patty mayonnaise.
Anyways,
my God.
Doug reference for you.
One guy that's a new addition to this is Eric Bledsoe. Brandon Knight was a starter last year, at least going into the season.
Flip-flopping.
Yeah, so Eric Bledsoe, as you call him, Mini Bron.
Bron. He's baby Bron.
Looking at him coming in at 12. Thoughts on Eric Bledsoe? What is he going to do with the Suns? Is he going to be able to justify this? Is he going to be able to stay healthy?
If he's still on the Suns to start the season,
Kyrie can throw a huge wrench into this if he gets traded.
It could be interesting, but we're going with the assumption that he will be on the Suns
to start the season.
And I think should he stay healthy, he contributes across the board. I know I talk about him probably more than anybody else on this group, but like he's a player who can give you rebounds, assists. He gets in there defensively. He is a good scorer. He's got decent court vision. Like the thing for me with him is just like, because now I'm expecting him to be like ready by prime. The rest of these guys in this team are so much younger, so he needs to be the leader out there, and that's something where we haven't seen him do. Last year, obviously, we got to watch a lot out of the names get Tyler Ulis.
Yep.
And like he looks so good, and that's what leads like a lot of questions in my mind. But like, look, Bledsoe is a solid contributor, and he's above average for point guards. And point guard's one of the most loaded positions from top to bottom. Like I think they go 20 deep to any point guard. Like toss me one of those, and I'm good. So I think,
honestly, when we're talking like 16 up, I mean those are all quality players. Drew Holiday and up, I would say Schroeder, Teague, Hill, Bledsoe, Dragic. You can really flip those on any basis on really what you're looking for in a player. Bledsoe's a guy that can be your number one option when you're rebuilding and still be a guy that can be a top point guard in the league.
I think the thing I'm curious to see is how he works with Booker now that Booker's had that last month of time to purely develop and be the man on the team. So now we're emerging with Bledsoe and Booker side by side as your backcourt. That's where I want to see how that relationship continues to grow.
And adding Josh Jackson, seeing Chris develop, and also your boy Bender.
Dragon Bender.
There were 3 guys here that I was like, I didn't know how to put them at 12, 13, 12, 13, and 14. And that was Goran Dragic, Jeff Teague, and then Eric Bledsoe. Because here's kind of like my mindset of it. Like when you look at the stats, obviously Bledsoe, even just looking at it for Goran Dragic, he has better points, better assists, better rebounds. But then when I looked at he's got a better per than that, but the other 2, true shooting is better, and the other 2 add more value. The value was like 310 for Bledsoe, 324 for Dragic, and then 326 for Teague. I know the thing with Teague is new team, and that's the one where I'm like, okay, maybe I could switch Teague and Bledsoe and put Bledsoe above Teague where I had it where Teague is above. But to me, it comes where it's Dragic and Bledsoe. Those are the 2 where I'm like, I could switch it depending on the day, whether it's raining or sunny. I can put Bledsoe one, and then the next day I could put Dragic the other, and I can kind of flip them in and out.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean the one thing with Dragic too, I mean once D Wade left, I mean he did have to take more of a scoring brunt, as they would say, and you look at his numbers kind of matched up more to 2013-2014 was with the Suns.
Plus that team went on a heat. They went on a heat streak. For
I say that
nice
30 and 11 run.
Nice
Dion Waiters.
He went on a heat streak.
A heat
nice
streak.
Waiters County.
Yeah, Waiters County. I ultimately I think that Dragic. I mean, you look at Dragic, Teague, Hill, Schroeder, Drew Holiday. I mean, they're guys that can really add to the team, but they're not in that level where they are MVP, all-star type caliber players, which the guys that we'll get into when we hit 10 through 1. But any of these guys, do you think they're underrated in any sort of the way when you look at this? I know that Dragic might have a case because he does have that scoring asset, or I'm sorry, the scoring upside. You look at Bledsoe, obviously he's playing with a worse team. If he's traded to a different team like the Cavs, how much can he really affect the team? Are there any guys that you're looking at that are underrated in this 20 through 11?
Maybe a little Jay Lynn, only because he plays for the Nets.
Well, he also is
I had him a little lower only because, he was injured, but also he plays for the Nets. So it's like, how often do I see Jay Lynn stat stuff on ESPN? No, you don't focus on the Nets.
You got the number 5 biggest Nets fan in the world
right here.
Look, I'm just saying, when
Jalen black and white today.
When Jalen healthy, the Nets looked pretty good, and they were clicking on a couple cylinders. I'm not saying they were a playoff team by any means, but I'm saying they put together a respectable team, and that definitely not a top or a bottom 5 team in the league. So I like him. I'm just, again, it's another injury, another concern, and I'm just hitting that point where I don't know that he'll ever be healthy for a full season. So while he is a starter now, and we're assuming he's a starter, D'Lo to the 2, like that's a very fluid situation where I think throughout the year we might see some change there.
It's gonna be interesting to see what happens because again the Nets are still building up. You bring in Allen Crabbe, you have Karis LeVert, you have Jeremy Lin, you have D'Angelo Russell. What's going to happen? Is Jalen going to go to the bench? Is D'Angelo going to move over to the point guard? Because he is naturally a point guard.
Yeah, we've seen Jalen be an excellent 6-man too. So I mean, like, it's not a bad thing. I think that connotation's kind of been taken away at this point, where it's like, you're not a starter for us. You're just a 6-man. But like, he is absolutely phenomenal at being a 6-man, and his effort during the playoffs 2 seasons ago made a huge difference for them. So honestly, like. It's maybe a slight at Jeremy Lin. I just think that like his future's in such question right now that I feel comfortable where he's at. For me, the guy is George Hill because it's what do we expect out of him on a new team, on a young Kings team who
I'm excited for him.
That's the one where it's like I think he has got a lot of upside because he's never kind of been in that position before.
But then again, he's 31 years old.
Yeah.
And you saw what he did last year with a good Utah Jazz team. He was able to put up 16.9 points per game, 4 assists per game, 3.4 rebounds per game, but he was still very efficient.
That's
what helped him.
That's what I love.
Will his efficiency take a drop because he is on a worse team? He's not getting those open looks. He's not playing with Rudy Gobert, Gordon Hayward, these guys. So do you think that playing with Buddy Hield, taking down a step, that's going to hurt him?
You're saying Buddy Hield, Willie Cauley-Stein not equal to Gobert and Hayward?
No.
I don't even know what you're talking about. No, I think it's a great fit for him, to be honest with you. I think we're going to see equal or better stats from him this year because unless they decide that they're going to like pull the plug and go full tank mode again and be like, hey, De'Aaron Fox is getting your minutes because we said so. Like, that's the only situation where I could see it. But like, I think being a 31-year-old point guard and getting your chance to run this young team and be able to set the tone for them, you have a fantastic head coach, and now the organization's looking like they're turning the corner with a ton of young talent. So I think it's a perfect situation for him.
And I think one thing too with George Hill, I think he might be a guy that might fall out in some ways, not maybe fall out completely of the rankings next year, but because De'Aaron Fox is there,
right? I
don't know where he's going to be and if he's going to be here in Sacramento or if he's going to be a completely different place. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with George Hill. But I mean, looking at all these guys, these are guys that are quality starters, and then rookies that have a lot of hype to them, have a lot of potential. Ultimately, it's going to be interesting to see because you have guys like Dennis Schroeder, who's completely taking over a team now with all the moves. You have Dennis Smith, Lonzo Ball, helping build up a team. You have Markelle Fultz joining the process. Jeremy Lin being on a terrible Brooklyn team, but being a quality NBA player. If any of these players, looking at this list, who do you think is the most likely to get moved out of these players, whether it's in Bledsoe for a Kyrie deal, Teague for a Kyrie deal? Are there any guys that are for sure you think are going to be on the move and could help a different team that might be having a point guard like a Reggie Jackson or something like that?
I want to say Jeff Teague because of and this is only because of listening to the Herd today. He had Chris Mullinix on, and he was talking about how
Chris Mannix.
Thank you.
You combined Chris Mullen and Chris Mannix.
I keep doing that with names, but Mannix was on from the Vertical, and he was saying how there's a possibility that Wiggins and Teague, they'd have to wait until December 15th, but that might be a better deal than the Bledsoe deal. So I would say, if I'm picking out of the two, I'd say Teague would be the one that would be moved and on a new team next year.
I think, weirdly enough, I think the guy that might be moved is Goran Dragic.
You tried to sell us on this last year before they won that heater.
I did.
Now why now?
No, Dave, that
Sell it again. Because Kyrie.
now? But
Kyrie.
are you willing to
take Kyrie?
Are you giving up Justice Winslow and Dragic?
I don't know exactly what the package is. I haven't worked
Well,
it out.
that's the early rumor. Is it's a combo of those two guys. I don't know. Are you ready to give up on Winslow?
And if they start tanking, if they start doing poorly, if they don't put it together, Dragic is a nice piece to be moved.
I like Dragic and Waiters backcourt. I like Whiteside. I think they've got something going.
What if Waiters, starts eating Twinkies again?
True.
I mean, what if Hassan Whiteside gets
are we
injured?
reuniting Kyrie and Waiters again? Because that worked out so great the first time.
Hey, this is a different Deion Waiters. He's changed. I'm just throwing Goran Dragic. I don't want to be following the Eric Bledsoe train.
All right.
Eric Bledsoe's probably the most recent though, because he is.
Yeah, say
Dragic and Winslow for Kyrie works out in the trade machine.
I bet it does.
It works out.
Anyways.